What is going on, Governors? Chisgule here, and today we're going to show you footage of cities getting zeroed, cities getting rallied. All of this took place during our Kingdom versus Kingdom, and my goodness, it was crazy. If you like Rise of Kingdoms videos where we show you crazy rallies, wars, city attacks, you should like and subscribe because we've got a ton of that sort of content, including the man, the myth, the legend, the monster, Solimar, 400 million power, rallied down to 53 million power, card up in the top. If you haven't seen that, yeah, that's kind of a must watch. Go check that out. Now, in this video, Scaffy 2 is offline, which is a problem. The reason that's a problem is that when your city is getting hit, it's actually not that big a deal. None of your troops are going to die. They're all going to fill up your hospital when they are severely injured. The problem is that when your hospital becomes full, then every severely injured troop will just die. That is where things get really, really savage. So this first rally, I expect, is not going to be as insane as the subsequent rallies. Now, the thing that's really good about Kingdom versus Kingdom is that your hospital capacity is doubled. So at maximum, Scaffy 2 would have, I think it's 690,000 capacity in the hospital, something like that. A really remarkable number of troops can be in the hospital, but if you're offline, they will attack your city continuously until every troop you have is overflowing from that hospital and dying, and that is where you get into some serious trouble. Now, I love that Scaffy 2 is rocking Yi Seong-Ye as a garrison commander, and as a primary, I think that's an excellent choice. What I don't quite understand is the choice of secondary commander, which looks like it's Minamoto or Cao Cao. That is not a commander I would put on my wall. I think we can do better. And I would be shocked if Scaffy 2 also doesn't have better. I would make the argument that Sun Tzu would be a better choice than even an expertise Cao Cao for sure. Now, the thing that's interesting about being the attacker in this position is that you've probably got all the time you need, and you see here that they actually cancel the rally. They cancel the rally, and my guess is that they were probably using Saladin as the secondary with Minamoto as the primary, and they don't actually need to take any loot because Saladin's fourth skill makes it so you do 15% damage to cities, but you can't steal any loot from the city. So you may as well cancel out the rally, launch a new one. You got all the time in the world if the player's offline. And in this case now, we're going to track Scaffy's power. He's down to 67 million power. Oh boy, and it's going to drop much, much more. Now we've got another rally coming into Scaffy City. This time it's all archers. We've got Yi Seong-Ye at the helm with El Cid as the secondary. That is a very, very powerful pair for rallying. Now, what I would argue is that this was one of the very, very, very best combinations in the last KvK. In this KvK, a better combination existed, but very few people actually have the commanders both expertise. And I would argue that if you're hitting a city, the very best you could do is Edward and Tamaris, with Edward primary, Tamaris secondary. Tamaris has all 4 skills relevant for hitting cities. Edward also has 4 skills relevant when you're in the open field, although that advantage will drop pretty quickly for the 4th skill, where he does extra damage when he's above 70% health. And, you know, that's going to drop pretty quickly when you're rallying a city. Now, Scaffy 2's city has been really softened up at this point. And what I do want to call attention to is the fact that in Yi Seong-Ye, when you are defending your city, or really any objective, he does area of effect damage. And I know I talk about this in a lot of videos, but it's so important to understand that that area of effect damage makes it so that no armies can be near the city. Otherwise, they run the risk of getting hit by Yi Seong-Ye's AoE, even if they aren't attacking the city, which is really, really savage. So you really want to use an AoE commander like that for defending a structure, because you can inflict deaths on enemies and force them to move around the battlefield differently. There are really very few mechanisms you have to control where an enemy would want to position themselves on the battlefield, and this is one of them. Use it. Use that to your advantage. Now, I'm sure many of you watching this are wondering, well, wait a minute. Chisgule, why aren't you helping Scaffy too? And that is because really a number of things. First and foremost, this player is totally out of position. Our KvK ended a long time ago. We told people to go back to safety, and in this case, he hasn't. The onus really was on Scaffy to get back to a safe position with his city. We gave warning before the passes were going to open up. We gave warning after they'd opened up. And even, I know Abiles went around and did a heroic effort trying to keep some flags up and buy people some time. But look at this. Now they are swarming Scaffy's city, and this is where things start to get really out of hand. A lot of deaths are going to be inflicted on the people hitting the city, but they're also going to get a lot of loot, and that is actually the strategy that you want to use if you want to pick up loot by virtue of hitting the city. The thing you want to do is wait for the rally to weaken it, and then when it's at the very last sliver of health, boom, you hit with your solo march to try to get some of the plunder. Now, if that's the thing you're going to do, I would make the argument you should use all siege units. Here we can see Scaffy's down to 65 million power, and he's got 1.4 million dead troops. That number, my friends, is going to go way, way up. Here is yet another rally on Scaffy City. I was only able to capture a handful of the rallies that hit. This is a full cavalry rally now hitting the city. It looks like this is the follow-up to the previous rally that we were showing. We know that because of the power that we just flashed on the screen a moment ago. And we see this rally getting reinforced. Now, what I think is interesting and worth calling out here is that there is one of our allies sending some reinforcements here. Looks like it's Abby, one of the leaders of the White Tigers, and it looks like he's just trying to get into the city if he can to see if he can snag a report, which is pretty reasonable. But look at that. That simple move was able to tag this infantry army that was walking by with a hit for 20,000, which, I mean, that's pretty significant. You get a lot of free kills by using Yi Seong-Ye to defend stuff. Now, one of the players from White Tigers jumps out of a flag nearby and starts to try to bait these players into the AoE of Yi Seong-Ye. I would argue that this is actually a really, really strong tactic, and more often than not, you can get someone to chase you back near the city, and they end up getting hit by the AoE from the city, which, like, gosh, if the city has over 1 million troops in it, that's going to be a lot of damage. Now here, it looks like that army's getting pulled in, but they realize, uh-oh, we're going to be in trouble, and they turn around just in time to avoid getting fully baited in by Sherb, who is, I assume, trying to make that happen. Yikes. Yikes. Zeroing cities. You know what I need? I need that song that's like the trumpet playing, and it's like do 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 do, right? Like anytime a city gets zeroed, I need some music. Somebody find me some really cool music to put in when cities get zeroed. Now here, Scaffy has in fact baited in T5 troops to get hit by some of that AoE from Yi Seong-Ye, which is no joke. That said, Scaffy now down to 62.5 million power. Here's another rally that hit. I only got the tail end of it, but he's down at this point to 57 million power. 2.2 million dead troops. Yikes. Here we caught wind of another rally on Scaffy. This time we're back to archers. Totally nuts. Totally nuts. This is the tail end of the rally. And there it is again. He's down to 54 million power. This ends up going pretty quickly. 2.588 million troops dead. And now they go for the zero. Now, I'm calling it going for the zero because you attack with a bunch of marches in the open field, and you keep hitting until the city doesn't put up any troops to defend. And what's happening here is that some of the troops are getting severely injured, and they're just dying because the hospital's full, and the rest are getting slightly wounded. Well, as soon as the combat ends, all the slightly wounded get healed again. So basically, they battle the city, the combat ends, all the slightly wounded get healed again, but there's every single time fewer and fewer troops because the severely injured troops are all dying. So now they just hit the city over and over and over and over. And there's so many of them there that the amount of deaths that any one of them has is relatively low. This is a more expensive route to go than running rallies on the city. But at some point, it takes so much time to queue up rallies, right? It's like 5 minutes, I guess 4 minutes with your alliance technology for every single rally that, you know what? You just swarm the darn thing and you go completely ham. And that's exactly what we see here. Now, in this case, it does look like Yi Seong-Ye is getting some amount of AoE attacks off, at least for part of this. But at this point, the health is so low that this player is just done ski. As of the time that I recorded this video, not the footage, but this video with me commenting, Scaffy 2 was not in White Tigers, and I don't know where he is. Hope you're okay wherever you are, my friend. Hope you're okay wherever you are. Yikes. Yikes. We have ourselves been rallied a non-trivial number of times. I'll drop some of those cards up in the top. We can see here Scaffy's completely zeroed. He's down to 52 million power. Pretty savage. In this clip, Butter is actually baiting a rally. He positioned his city in a way that he would get rallied. He is online, and he's trying to just inflict some deaths. If you're attacking a city, you really wouldn't know this. It'd be very hard to tell that they're not online. Butter is using an optimal combination of commanders. We've got Charles Martel as the primary, Yi Seong-Ye as the secondary, and look at that siege march standing in the AoE, probably not realizing they're getting hit. Ouch. Ouch. Now here, those armies end up swarming the city. I would make the argument that they did that a little bit too soon. Butter had a little bit too much health to be a really great choice to be swarming at that point, and the armies do back off because there is still a lot more time left for Butter City to get sort of softened up before you go for that style of attack. Now, one technique I've seen that I honestly really like is that instead of using real troops, a real would be cavalry, infantry, archers, you could just rally the city with all siege units. And if you had a lot of siege units lying around, that would actually be a pretty decent use of your siege units to prevent you from losing more valuable troops. At this point, the city is at that tiny sliver of health left. It does make sense for those other armies to attack now. And look at that one original siege army that's, gosh, it's just so low. I don't know if it's even going to make it to the finish line here to take loot. I think they may have just had a lot of dead troops. Although they made it. They got some loot. We actually have some reports from Butter at the tail end of this video before we head out, which will be kind of exciting to show here. I always like to see reports for when a city gets hit because I think it's pretty instructional for how we can improve our defense. So let's go pull up that report now and get a look here. 147,000 troops dead for the attacker, but 347,000 put in the hospital for the defender. Now, when you think about their hospital capacity, they were really never in any danger. But look at the incidental kills they got. 67,000, 55,000, 19,000, 12,000. They got a lot of kills from marches that were nearby, and he did lose some loot, but that's not so bad in the grand scheme of things. If you want to know how to prevent your city from getting rallied, you should check out my last video. I'll have a card up in the top for that at some point throughout this video. And if you did enjoy this, please do like and subscribe. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.